Liminal spaces and the backrooms. This is all things creepy, and let's begin. So the term liminal space was really coined in 2019 following the posting of the backrooms on 4chan. Now initially this post consisted of a picture and then a series of pictures depicting a yellowed out office block, seemingly nondescript, however lacking any people. That's right, despite being in seemingly pristine condition, there is no sign of any people there, other than the fact that it's clearly maintained in some way. And that alone caused a strange sense of dread and unease in the people that looked at it. Now it's hard to exactly pinpoint what makes this so scary or what makes it so unsettling to look at. Now of course H.P. Lovecraft, over 100 years ago now, really capitalised on the theme of the unknown and how that taps into the human psyche. Humans have an existential fear of things they don't know about, or things that don't add up, but you can't explain why. There is no explanation, at least not one that you'd understand. And I think liminal spaces and backrooms tap into that. Of course, you also have the factor of the so-called uncanny valley, something that should be normal, but there's something subtle but not quite right about it. And human brains, being naturally attuned to pick up on any patterns, detect this sort of thing instantly. It's the reason someone has surgery, plastic surgery, and on paper, the things that they've done to themselves should make them look better. But the human brain can tell something's not quite right. It doesn't look how it should. And even if it's the tiniest detail, we fixate on that and it starts to cause a sense of unease. If something's not quite right with this person or place in this case, what's wrong with it? What's causing that? I don't know. And therefore we lead to existential dread. The idea of liminal spaces, and in fact the wording, is a reference to transience or temporary permanence. I don't think it's any coincidence that a lot of these backrooms and liminal space images have a lot of references to early 2000s or 90s aesthetics, even in some cases having features that clearly define them as being from that region. Most of the internet, especially when you delve deep into subcultures, 4chan being a key example, are of an age where you would be in your youth in the early 2000s or the 90s. And because of that, you have a memory of these places and themes and aesthetics that have long since died out and would be extremely hard to come by in real life. They're attached to a memory, something that you formed when you were very young, when your brain was very different, and the world was almost dreamlike. And one of the key things to remember about human psyche and imagination is that a dream and a nightmare are not too dissimilar. There's a very fine line separating the two. And that's where the liminal spaces really ramp up that sense of dread and unease. There's a dreamlike quality to them. And in a dream, you very rarely have control. The laws of physics don't apply, so anything can happen, and anything can happen to you. And in theory, anything could appear. It's purely based on the limitations of your imagination. And maybe not even an imagination that you're aware of. A lot of dreams fabricate their images based on deep recesses of the human subconscious. These are things that you wouldn't even know that you could imagine. And in those vulnerable states when you're dreaming, your mind is repairing. And it's here that parts of your brain and mind that normally are dormant or barely acting really take center stage. They start to piece together things from your subconscious, things that are buried in dark places. And when you put all of that together, sometimes you see things that unsettle you, to put it lightly. And I think it's quite well known that when dreaming, you often don't realise that you're dreaming. Usually not until it's too late and you wake up with relief. But in the moment when things are at their most terrifying, it's when you genuinely think the strange and bizarre things happening around you are real, and you can't distinguish between what is fact or fiction, what is fantasy and reality. And I'm sure if you ever did encounter a truly terrifying, existentially rendering situation, part of you would question, is this a dream? This can't be real. But the sad truth is, how will you ever truly know until you wake up? The Backrooms really play off of this. The idea of the Backrooms is that you or anyone at any point could no-clip through reality and end up in the Backrooms. Now, no-clipping is a video game term, but it ties loosely with the ever-growing in popularity theory of simulated reality. The Matrix, essentially. What we see, what we live day to day, is some form of simulation, whether it be digital or some mode of imagery that we haven't even discovered yet or can't comprehend. And as a result, there would sometimes be glitches in that simulation. You might slip into the ground, completely on accident, completely by chance, wrong place, wrong time, and end up somewhere you really don't want to be, isolated, alone. Maybe there's someone else here. Maybe there was someone else here a long time ago. Perhaps they didn't make it. Maybe there's something else here from somewhere else, not from what you would call home. Maybe there's a way out. Maybe there isn't. Perhaps you'll be here forever, indefinitely. This once again plays on a very key fear that we have: disappearing without a trace. Throughout human history, there haven't been many of cases like this, but definitely enough to raise eyebrows. Situations where someone has simply vanished. Here in the UK, we have the tragic story of Madeleine McCann, who vanished. Now, the main speculated theories, of course, are that some sinister activity took place, some form of trafficking, something along those lines. But how do we know? There's no confirmation of this. No body has been found, no one's come forward with any evidence. Nothing that's concrete anyway. Every year, people go missing. Forever. Never to be found. And in an increasingly digitally aware age, where almost everything is caught on camera in some form, especially in the Western world, I find that quite startling that people are still disappearing without a trace. And I think the Backrooms definitely takes full advantage of those facts, posing a possible theory as to what happens to some of these people. And I think it's quite terrifying to know that this could happen to anyone. At any time, there's nothing you can really do to be completely safe from it. And the more you learn and the more you uncover, perhaps you even start to understand how this plane of existence works. It will just unravel more questions. Where did it come from? Why is it there? Who created it? Where does it lead to? All questions that are sure to drive a mere mortal insane. But yeah, let me know what you think. I find this style of horror quite refreshing, I think it's definitely a change of pace. It lets the reader or watcher really use their imagination. There's no need to basically shove the explanation in your face, or have meaningless jump scares. If there are any jump scares, it's legitimate. It's terrifying and mind-bending. The creatures you see are terrifying in and of themselves. They're terrifying accompanying the setting, and they're scary because the atmosphere is so scary. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you like this direction that horror media seems to be taking? Of course, movies are still sticking to the whole jump scare, Conjuring style horror, which is fine, but I quite like this subgenre, if you will. As a side note, I have been working with another creator on a second channel to create some music. A lot of it is themed around the backrooms and liminal spaces, and there's quite a lot of creepy atmospheric music there. So I'll leave a link to that in the comments and description. It's called Andromeda's Tears, if you'd like to know. So check it out if you like it. It's somewhat similar to the music I use for the backing here, but a lot more synth heavy. Other than that, like the video if you did, share it with a friend, and of course, if you haven't already, subscribe for more creepy content.